Good evening, Namaskar. So this is part 15 of the special revision series for reading comprehension that StudyIQ IAS has come up with. I am Bhuvan Apurvacha. Once again, I welcome everyone who is joining us and who has in fact joined us currently for the part 15 of this special revision series. Today on the agenda is 2019 CSAT. Now, before I go forward and tell you about 2019 CSAT and what was the analysis for the paper after that particular year, just before that, let me briefly inform you about myself. Well, this is me, Bhuvan Apurvacha. If you have any questions regarding reading comprehension, any particular understanding, conceptual or practical that you require, well, I am available. Shoot me a mail at my email ID, bhuvan.jha@studyiq.com. This is my email ID. Now, going forward, well, this is the special revision series that I'm talking about. Thank you for joining, Swati. So, this is the special revision series. 14 classes we have completed. Today is the 15th one. And possibly your last call insofar as revising the basics of reading comprehension is concerned. How to go about understanding the different questions that are asked. What is the methodology to be applied. And how exactly are you to attempt the different questions. First up, obviously, central idea and theme. A recurring question that UPSC asks, central idea and theme. You will find all the information in the part 2 of this special revision series. Thereafter, we have tones. I have, in fact, spoken exhaustively and comprehensively on tones. We have done that over 2 classes. So, if you have any problems insofar as identification of tones is concerned, well, lecture number 2 and 3 is your friend. Hi, Siddharth. Good evening. Okay. Thereafter, we come to the more difficult ones. The assumption, the inference, the implication, the implied questions, the corollary, the conclusion. All of those terms have been discussed here. And the questions have been discussed here in part 5 and part 6. Thereafter, we have begun year-wise solving of all reading comprehension questions 2014, 13, 14 onwards. Right now, we have reached 2018. That's the last class where we had finished off. Today is 2019. Now, very quickly, if I were to just tell you about 2019 CSAT, 30 questions. Okay, 24 odd passages. So 30 questions out of 80, 1/3 of the paper almost, which will give you a sense of the surprise that students faced after they faced the number of questions that they did. Now, on an average, I've told you that roughly you can expect somewhere around 25, but 2019 was one of those years where UPSC went out with a vengeance against the students. The topics were difficult, not easy, definitely not easy, and the questions that followed were tricky, to say the least. So you had a host of questions where you had to find inference, or you had to find conclusion, or you had to find assumption. So we'll be looking at those questions today as to how you go around solving these questions, what are the pointers that you look for, how are you to interpret those passages, because again, like I told you, the passages were not easy that year. Definitely above moderately difficult. All right, good evening, Mallikarjun. Nice of you all to join. So, without much delay, let's straight away jump into the questions for the day. First up, let's go for this one. Political theorists no doubt have to take history of injustice. Okay, so this is the concept that is being introduced. History of injustice. For example, untouchability seriously. The concept of this justice, historical injustice, takes note of a variety of historical wrongs that continue into the present time in some form or the other and tend to resist repair, which means that the problems that existed, well, it's not getting solved. Those are not being addressed as they should have been. 2 reasons might account for this resistance to repair. All right. Number 1, not only are the roots of injustice, so we are talking about the source, buried deep in history, injustice itself constitutes economic structures of exploitation, ideologies of discrimination, and modes of representation. Now, just understand this very briefly. Okay, very briefly we have to understand this with an example that I know you will all relate to. For example, climate change. Okay, forget this passage for the timing, 2 minutes. For example, climate change. Now you had these industrialized nations that essentially had industrial revolution first. They had access to, say, coal, and then they went around massive infrastructure development on the back of burning of these coals. Thereafter now, today we have the ecological ramifications of that massive scale industrialization that these countries did. The Western nations, insofar as this argument is concerned, for example. Now, today the most direct impact of that massive expansion of industry, that massive burning of coal, is being borne by, say, nations in Africa or Asia. So one argument is that there should be climate reparations. Okay, I'm just digressing to explain you the exact meaning of this. So climate reparations. So all the poor nations are saying, you know what, these rich countries, because they had access to, say, coal earlier than us, they went around expanding their economy, building their infrastructure earlier than us, and for that they burnt coal. So they now need to pay us some sort of reparations, for we were denied access and opportunity to grow at the same time as them. Okay. Now, this climate reparation also has, say, other problems associated with it. So you have discrimination, say in Africa now. So you have people who will be discriminated against by the West. They'll be saying, you know what, you're not important in the whole argument here. There will be problems of, say, untouchability or racial connotations to it, all of that arising out of this competition for resources. And because of which, now you have a lack of representation also. So you look at the United Nations structure, you don't have a permanent member from, say, Africa. Asia only has, say, one member. So what is this? This is a historical injustice. Something that should have been addressed earlier has not been addressed yet, and there are various facets to it, not just the economic. There is social facet to it. There is an environmental facet to it. So this is what the author is saying, that the roots of injustice are buried in history. Okay? Injustice itself constitutes economic structures, ideological discrimination, and modes of representation. Like I told you, all three are covered right now in the argument that I just gave you. 2. So the second reason, the category of historical injustice generally extends across a number of wrongs, such as economic deprivation, social discrimination, and lack of recognition. This category is complex, the author says, only because of the overlap between this number of wrongs. See, what he's essentially saying, that there are too many wrongs. Too many things are wrong, and so it's very difficult to compartmentalize which wrong is actually merging into the other wrong. Okay? That's historical injustice, he says. But because one of the other wrong, generally discrimination, tends to acquire partial autonomy from the others. This is borne out by the history of repair in India. This is what he's essentially saying, that you can't compartmentalize wrongs, that they are all intrinsically linked to each other, and more often than not, it takes the form of discrimination. Okay? This is what the author has said so far, that you cannot just compartmentalize one wrong from the other. It's eventually a complex issue. So, what is the main idea, the central idea of the passage? Let's look at it now. Untouchability in India has not been taken seriously by political theorists. Is that the central idea? Are we exclusively talking about untouchability, or are we talking about historical injustice? Okay. Essentially what the author has done is, he said historical injustice such as untouchability. It's one example, but not exactly the whole concept here. The bigger concept obviously is historical injustice. Wrong. B. Historical injustice is inevitable in any society and is always beyond repair. Firstly, any society, right? I have always asked you for this. Whenever you are confronted with these kind of words, be very careful. Go back to the passage and then link this. Is this been conclusively said by the author? No. His point is completely different. That historical injustice has various connotations to it. Okay? It is not just something that is inevitable, but it has got connotations and it's complex to understand. You can't link one thing with the other without understanding the whole concept of historical injustice. Okay, which is why this is also wrong. C, social discrimination and deprivation. Okay, two of them he's said, but then the passage tells us about economies also, doesn't it? Look at it. It's talking about economic deprivation, social discrimination, all of these. So, this obviously is not correct. D, it is difficult, if not impossible, to repair every manifestation of historical injustice. Look at the word here, the operative word here, complex. Not easy to understand. That sense is best said by D here, that it is difficult, if not impossible, to repair every manifestation of historical injustice. Why? Because it's a complex problem. Correct, Mallikarjun, well done. It's a complex problem. You cannot compartmentalize this and understand it in, say, a one-size-fits-all policy. That's not how it's going to work. Right? Are you able to get the gist of what I'm trying to communicate? That whenever you are asked to confront with the central idea, look for the bigger concept that explains the whole passage and not just say a single line or a single point that the author is trying to make. At no point will you do that. Okay? The central idea will carry the essence of the passage. You'll have to look at the passage from a bird's eye perspective and figure out which of the options is closest to that wholesome idea, that bigger idea that I'm talking about. None of these constitute even remotely close to the bigger idea. Okay? Main idea often will never have an example. No. Main idea, the central idea, will not be specifically to an example. It will be to the whole passage. Right? Okay, we'll move forward. Because this here was not very easy to do. Okay, now we'll carry out the assumption evaluation here. Which of the assumptions have been made by the author that you should also make so as to the information in the passage be true? You'll have to find those similar assumptions. Number 1, removal of economic discrimination leads to removal of social discrimination. Just economic discrimination? When the author has explicitly mentioned here about the structures of exploitation, ideologies of discrimination, and modes of representation. Just not the economic bit. You'll have to again factor in all. The author has also assumed it. Mallikarjun, I think we'll do up till 8:15 for sure, 100%. Until at least we finish the whole whatever we have, because it will be done in 2 parts. There are 30 questions in that year. So obviously I can't do the whole 30 questions in one sitting. Then it will obviously run past 2 hours. So we'll probably break it down in 2 sessions. So you'll understand this. This is where he's mentioned the different facets, which means this alone being removed is not enough. You'll have to talk about the others too. That's the assumption author is also making, which means this is incorrect. B, democratic polity is the best way to repair historical wrongs. Like I told you, no information about this. The author has not said what is the way forward to address that problem. Should we have a democratic polity or an autocratic polity, or what should we exactly do? The author has not taken a position, so why should you? This is a problem. This is a statement for the future. Okay? Obviously not correct. The author has made no such position, none of those, which means your answer here would be neither 1 nor 2. D would be your best assumption. Best answer. Okay? This is how you're going to be approaching. At no point will you waver from the assumptions the author has made. Your assumptions should be the same as what the author has also assumed. And when you look at the passage, when you look at the different arguments that he's made, you will be able to understand that this is directly incorrect. He's drawn up about not just economic, he's talking about methods of representation, ideological divergences, all of those. So you just assuming this leads to removal of social discrimination is wrong. Straight up. And this obviously because the author has taken no position. You will not ascribe assumptions, you will not attach assumptions the author has made just because you feel so. No, there has to be some sense communicated through the passage. The passage gives us no such information. Okay, so neither one nor two. My best answer here. Okay, please understand 2019 had around 30 questions. Okay, and most of the students were facing problems when it came to identification of assumptions. Most of the students. Why? Because the whole point of an assumption is that you have to think in the same perspective as the author. What was the stand he was taking or he is taking through the passage that he has communicated? Okay, which is why assumptions, many students find it difficult. Okay, we'll move forward. Let's look at this now. Education plays a great transformatory role in life, particularly so in this rapidly changing and globalizing world. Universities are the custodians of intellectual capital. All right, they have intellectual capital and they are promoters of culture and knowledge. Culture is an activity of thought and receptiveness to beauty and human feelings. A merely well-informed man is only a bore on God's earth. Okay. Just the fact that you have read a lot doesn't mean you are cultured. That's what it's trying to say. Just the fact that you have well read is no guarantee that you are a cultured man. So what should you do for? What we should aim at is producing men who possess both culture and expert knowledge. Their expert knowledge will give them a firm ground to start from, and how will their culture help them? Culture will lead them as deep as philosophy and as high as art. Together, knowledge and culture, it will impart meaning to human existence. The author essentially is saying, marry knowledge and culture. Okay? Marry knowledge and culture. That's what the author is saying in this passage. That's all. Right? Are we in agreement there, guys? Let me know in the chat. If this is your understanding of the passage, quickly let me know in the chat. Okay? That the author is just asking you to be a good individual. To be a good individual, you should be knowledgeable plus cultured. Okay? Let's look at the questions. Figure out the assumptions. Figure out the assumptions. Quickly, let me know in the answer in the chat, please. Let's see. Who's got this one? Let's go for it. Who can tell me the answer to this? Let's see. A society without well-educated people cannot be transformed into a modern society. Is this the assumption the author has made? B. Without acquiring culture, a person's education is not complete. I think this is a valid assumption. Why? Because the author is essentially batting for this. He is batting for a person who is both knowledgeable and cultured. Right? Right? Good. So if you are able to understand that, which means this is not an assumption. A society without well-educated people cannot be transformed into a modern society. Where is the knowledge angle there? Where is the knowledge angle? So you can safely say that, well, this is correct because for this to be true, if this is to be true, then this will also be true. That's what he's saying, that you should be capable from both sides, not just intellectual ability, but also say cultured ability. You should be a cultured individual, learning to appreciate philosophy and art and all of that. Yeah, expanding your horizons, as they say. So which means if one is incorrect, I can safely say this, this and this all are incorrect. Correct. B only. This is only the assumption that he would make. Hi Krishna, how are you? Okay. This is the only assumption that he is making. That without acquiring culture, you cannot be complete. Like Raymond's suit, complete man. So you need to have both knowledge plus culture. If you're lacking one, you're not a complete person. Simple. Okay? Fine. We'll move forward. If you have any questions, quickly let me know in the chat, okay? I'll be more than happy to take them on. Alright, let's go forward. Let's look at this. Passage number 3. Educated man is cultured also. No, look at this. Look at the passage here. Mallikarjun. Have a look. See what essentially he is saying. Look at this line here. A merely well-informed man is only a bore on God's earth. Only a bore. Which means what? He's essentially saying that it is not enough to just be well educated. Why? What we should aim at is producing men who possess both culture and expert knowledge. See, culture and knowledge. Knowledge and culture. That's what the author is saying. You just can't be educated and be considered to be cultured. Okay? That's what he's trying to say. Are you able to catch the drift here? Okay? Let's look at this question quickly, guys. Passage 3. Have a read of it. Okay, let's look at this. Soil in which nearly all our food grows. Yogesh, I haven't received any mail from you. I haven't. Are you sure you had the right email ID? Well, this is my email ID. Once again, I'm writing it down. If you just want, forward that whatever you have sent to me. Sorry, StudyIQ. This is my email ID, bhuvan.jha@StudyIQ. Please just forward me right now, Yogesh, and I'll get back to you as soon as this class ends, after my 9 p.m. session. Okay? Let's look at the passage now. Soil in which nearly all our food grows is a living resource that takes years to form. Yet, transition word, it can vanish in minutes. Each year, a huge amount of fertile soil is lost to erosion. That is alarming, and not just for food producers. Soil can trap huge quantities of CO2 in the form of organic carbon and prevent it from escaping into the atmosphere. So soil acts like a carbon sink type, basically. It traps CO2. Are you able to understand? Has the author said who causes the erosion? No. No mention there. Please understand that. He just said each year a huge amount of fertile soil is lost to erosion. Statement. He has not said who causes the erosion. Keep that in mind, guys. Okay? Let's look at the questions now. What are the assumptions that have been made? See, look at this. Every question they have come in after assumptions. Why? Students find that difficult. It was one of those years where I know that assumptions were asked en masse. Bhar ke pucha tha. Okay? And I know that most students will face problems when it comes to assumptions-based questions. Okay, so let's look at this. Number 1. Large-scale soil erosion is a major reason for widespread food insecurity in the world. Okay? Soil erosion is mainly anthropogenic. We can safely say this is incorrect. Anthropogenic, caused by humans. Anthro is humans. I hope you know that. Yes? Anthropology, anthropogenic, caused by humans. Third one, sustainable management of soil helps in combating climate change. Of course, why? Because they trap CO2, as the passage says, which means this is incorrect, this is correct. Let's look at the options now. If 2 is incorrect, which means this, and this, we're left with this. Correct. The only assumption the author makes. Correct? Clear? Clear how you are going to arrive at the answer? It's simple. Solving this whole passage correctly would not take you more than 1.5 minutes. Not more than that. All you need to do is identify which one is correct. This obviously, large-scale soil erosion is a major reason for widespread food insecurity in the world. It's not exactly the assumption he's making. What he's saying, that there will be problems, but he's not exactly saying it's going to lead to widespread food insecurity. How will you draw that conclusion? Simple. B. Correct. Good answer, Swati. Well done. Good. Okay, we'll move forward. Let's look at this passage now. Look at it. They have asked passage, one question. Passage, one question. Why? It takes time. Can you explain second option? Sure, Mallikarjun, 100%. Look at it. This one, no? Soil erosion is mainly anthropogenic. Now look at the passage. Okay. So each year, this many tons of fertile soil is lost. That is alarming. All of that. Okay. Is lost due to erosion. So you have soil that is getting lost due to erosion. But then when it comes to the question, why? Who is causing it? Who? Is the author giving us any information? Who is causing the problems? Is he saying it's industrial? Is he saying it's due to, say, natural events? Is he saying that it is due to, say, people encroaching? We do not know. There is no information. He has not mentioned only. Who is causing this erosion? Is it due to, say, winds or people making construction or topsoil going off, or what exactly is happening? No information. So if the author has not made that assumption, why should you? Because anthropogenic means caused by mankind or humankind. Okay? Related to humankind. How can you say that humankind is doing it? Sir, does author mention about the solutions? Look at it. Soil can trap. That is it. Simple. Soil acts as a carbon sink, as a temporary carbon sink. Nothing more. Where are the solutions? No solutions. No solutions. Which is why, when you go there, what is he saying? Sustainable management of soil helps in combating climate change. Why? Because he also says that soil traps carbon dioxide. At the same time, we are losing 75 million tons, which means you can draw this assumption that if you manage soil sustainably better, then you will be able to make sure that the carbon dioxide is taken care of, which means you will be able to contain climate change. Okay? No, he is not assuming. See, then he will have to say, no, Mallikarjun, he'll have to say that, okay, soil erosion is due to, say, whatever reasons. It's due to man-made reasons or natural reasons. There are only two possibilities, but then the author has not taken any of those. He has not mentioned it. So when here it is asking us mainly anthropogenic, how can we come to that conclusion? Maybe it is mainly due to natural causes. Maybe. Maybe it is only due to natural causes and not due to anthropogenic. So that classification has not been made by the author. That he has not made that difference. He has not made that classification at all. Why should we then do that? Okay. I hope that was clear. Unless the author has said also that, okay, you know what? Soil erosion was due to, say, anthropogenic reasons. Humankind is causing 75 tons of soil to get eroded every day or every year. Then yes, then we can say yes, soil erosion is mainly anthropogenic. But the author has not mentioned anywhere in the whole passage as to who is responsible for this soil erosion. No idea. Okay? All right. We'll move forward, guys. Yeah, look at this now. Passage 4. Very quickly. Very quickly. Inequality is visible, even statistically measurable in many instances, but the economic power that drives it, good, look at this now. The economic power that drives it. Please understand now, cause-effect relationship I have told you for RC passages. What is the cause? Economic power. What is the effect here? Inequality. That should be clear, guys. Okay, cause-effect relationship, you should quickly identify and write it down. So, the economic power that drives it is invisible and cannot be measured. Like the force of gravity, power is the organizing principle of inequality. Power is the organizing principle of inequality. Be it in income, wealth, gender, race, religion, and region. All of these places, whoever controls the power is the boss. All of these realms. Okay? And that leads to inequality. Its effects are seen in a pervasive manner in all spheres. But the way in which economic power pulls and tilts visible economic variables remains invisibly obscure. right? So this power, how it tilts the economic variables is not known. This is not known. Okay? Obscure is unknown. So this is not known, but we can draw this relationship for sure. Clear? This is all the author is saying, that we can draw this relationship, but then how economic power leads to economic variables getting changed, and how it treats, how it categorizes economic power, that we cannot draw. That identification we cannot do. Clear? If we understand that, then we look at the questions. So what are the assumptions now? Once again, UPSC is asked, what are the assumptions that the author has made here? Let's look at the question now. Economic power is the only reason. Once again, whenever you see these definitive words, take a pause, go to the passage. Is it the only reason for existence of inequality? We will go back and look at the passage. Inequality is visible, but economic power that drives it is invisible and not measurable. Power is the organizing principle of inequality. And then it lists out the different realms. What kind of power and wherein does the inequality follow? Okay. B. Inequality of different kinds reinforces power. Third one, economic power can be analyzed more through its effects than by direct empirical methods. You will let me know the answer for this one, guys. Come on. I have explained it to you now. Let's see. Manjunath has come up with an answer. Can the rest also tell me, please? Very quickly. Very, very quickly. Let's have the answers. Yes, good. Good, Ray. Good, Swati. Excellent. This is not the only reason. It can be analyzed more through its effects than by direct empirical methods. Firstly, look at this. Okay. Look at this. In this, economic power is the only reason for the existence of inequality is incorrect, for sure. And here, economic power can be analyzed more through its effects than by direct empirical methods. When the author has said its origin is obscure, you cannot make that linking. Incorrect. Which means only this is correct. Which means, one second. Let me have a look first. I think I have done something wrong. Something wrong. Oh yeah, okay, sorry, my bad. So inequality of different kinds reinforces power. The cause-effect relationship that we spoke about. Which one reinforces which one, guys? Power reinforces inequality, no? Inequality does not lead to power. Correct? Which means this is incorrect for sure. Like I told you, the cause-effect relationship, power leads to inequality. So this is incorrect. Third one, economic power can be analyzed more through its effects than by empirical methods. Empirical meaning only is fundamental. The basic, the fundamental methods are empirical methods, which is what he's saying here. Look at this. Its effects are seen in a pervasive manner, but the ways in which economic power pulls and tilts, it remains obscure. That's what he's saying here. That it can be analyzed more through its effects, but not through, say, formulas and all whatever the intellectuals do. No, big formulas they'll put forward. They'll say all of the whole thing. So that is what he's essentially talking about. B is my correct assumption to make. 3 only. Good. Mallikarjun, Ray, Swati. Bahut badhiya. Good. Excellent answers. Why? Because you're able to identify very quickly assumptions now. We have done close to at least 100 questions on just assumptions, I feel, in this whole series. Assumptions shouldn't be an issue for anyone now. If anyone has gone through this series in toto, you will find assumptions to be very easy. Okay? We'll move forward. I don't want to waste a second of your time today because it's the last week. Let's look at this quickly. Climate change may actually benefit some plants. Okay, so it's talking about the benefits of climate change by lengthening growing seasons and increasing carbon dioxide. Yet, transition word, other effects of a warmer world, such as more pests, droughts, and flooding, will be less benign. Benign is essentially harmful. Okay? The meaning of benign is harmful. I've told you this earlier in the series also. So best way to understand these words, two words, okay? One word is benign and the other word is malignant. Malignant. If anything is benign, it is harmless. Less harmful, sorry. It is harmless. Okay? And malignant is very, very harmful. Okay? The best way to understand this is cancer. You have two kinds. So one is benign, which means it's dormant, it's not causing you harm, it's localized. And then there is malignant. Malignancy of cancer is when the cancer spreads. It becomes very bad, it becomes difficult to control. So that's the best way to understand these two word meanings. Okay. So how will the world adapt? Researchers project that by 2050, suitable croplands for 4 commodities, these 4 commodities, this will shift, in some cases pushing farmers to plant newer crops. Some farmlands may benefit from warming, but others won't. So the effects will not be uniform. Some might benefit, others may not benefit. Climate alone does not dictate yields. There are many other things, political shifts, global demand, and agricultural practices. All of this will influence how farms are faring in the future. The operative line is this, guys. Look at this. It's just not climate alone that will determine how much produce we are getting from, say, a farm or an agricultural field. There are many other considerations. Demand, supply, political shifts, all of those. Okay? He started with listing out the benefits of climate change. Then he said, well, you know what? Eventually, all of those people who are just growing these 4 commodities, they'll have to shift. And in some cases, you will be asked to plant better yield varieties or better crops for that particular time. Okay? Let's look at the question now. The rational inference. What do you infer? What's your primary takeaway? Okay? Your rational inference. Let's look at it now. Farmers who modernize their methods and diversify their fields will be in an advantageous position in the future. Okay? I think this looks fair enough. We'll come back to it. Climate change will adversely affect the crop diversity. Like I told you, the author has said climate change is not the only one. This is not the only one. There are others that is listed out. There are other factors that the author has listed out. Okay. C. Shifting major crops will lead to great increase in the total area under cultivation and thus an increase in overall agricultural produce. Firstly, great increase in area, we do not know from the passage. We have no idea. We cannot say for sure. So this is incorrect. How can I infer this when the author has made no mention of the area? D. Climate change is the most important factor. Is it? Is it really affecting the agricultural economy in the future? What about the demand supply chain and all of that he's mentioned? Yeah, the demand supply chain and the political shifts. All of those 3 things in the last conclusion that he mentioned. One more thing was there. He's also asked us to identify those, no? Which means this can't definitely be my answer. Galat. So I'm left with this. Obviously this, yes. Why? Those who are able to adapt and adopt new methods are the ones who are going to survive. Just like you guys. During the course of your preparation, those students who are able to adapt quickly and adopt newer methods, scientific methods of preparation, rather than doing things on gut feeling or unsolicited advice or because some random person on a YouTube video told you. Don't do that. Don't even believe me, I tell you. Be very scientific in the way you make any change to your preparation. Okay? Always have a sample set before you consider any action. Okay? Good. Okay. A is correct. Ray Swati. Well done. Good answers. Excellent answers. Alright. Let's look at this. The source of coronavirus. Let's look at this. Bat's wings. Let's have a look at this. A bat's wings may look like sheets of skin, but underneath, a bat has the same 5 fingers as an orangutan or a human. Same as an orangutan or a human. As well as a wrist. The similarities don't end there. You have a wrist connected to the same cluster of wrist bones, which are also connected to the same long bones of the arm. What can be more curious than the hand of a man formed for grasping, that of a mole for digging, the leg of the horse, the paddle of the porpoise, and the wings of the bat should all be constructed on the same pattern. It's essentially the point of the author is, the central idea of the author is that hands, similarity, which means he is hinting at similar evolution. In some sense, similar origin, if not evolution. This is what he's trying to say. Simple. This is the link. Okay? Shouldn't be any different to understand that we all have the same structure. All these, okay? All these examples that is mentioned here. Of a mole for digging, of a leg of a horse, the paddle of a porpoise, all of these animals and the bat, they all show similarities. What are the similarities? Well, this. You have a wrist connected to a larger wrist and then the bones, they are all similar when you compare all these animals. What is he trying to hint? That there must be something, some similar origin. He's essentially hinting at that. Let's quickly look at the questions now. Very quickly. Which of the following is the inference the author is trying to make? What's the inference? Number 1. Different species having different structure of hands is an example of biodiversity. Is it an example of biodiversity, guys? Biodiversity is a very specific concept, no? In environment and ecology. How can we say biodiversity? If he had said an example of similar origin, probably I would have agreed. In fact, most likely I would have agreed only. But biodiversity is completely different. Right? B. Limbs being used by different species for different kinds of work. Again, biodiversity. No. Biodiversity is a specific concept. It's not even talking about biodiversity, the passage. See, man and those animals have similar structure is an example of coincidence in evolution. Again, how? How do we know this? Whether it is coincidence or designed or actually evolution wanted this to happen, how can we definitely draw that conclusion? D. Man and the aforementioned animals have a shared evolutionary history, shared origin. Bang on target. D. Absolutely correct, Ray. Good answer. Mallikarjun, should all be constructed in some manner means what, sir? Okay, let's have a look. Okay, look at the sentence first, Mallikarjun. Okay. So the sentence begins here. What can be more curious than all of these examples should all be constructed on the same pattern? Is it not surprising? Is essentially what the author is asking you. Is it not surprising that all of these examples, the porpoise, the horse, the mole, the bat, all of us show some sort of similarities? Okay, this is what he's saying, no? Similar pattern. What is the pattern? This particular thing, that you have a wrist connected to a cluster of wrist, which is connected to long bones. Wrist, cluster of wrist, connected to long bones. This exists in all of these animals. Why is the author saying that? He's hinting at there is some similarity in evolution or origin, that we were eventually probably coming down from the same ancestors in probably some manner or the other. That's all. Good answer, D. Swati, well answered. Good, well answers. Bahut badhiya. D is the answer. Yes, this will only discount out because of these particular words. Biodiversity has no connotation only here. Okay, it's not even talking about biodiversity. And this obviously coincidence or happenstance or why exactly is not known in the passage. So why should I assume it on my own? It's only asking me to infer. What's your takeaway? What's your primary understanding of the passage? My primary understanding of the passage is that the author is hinting that man, along with whatever list of animals, they have all some sort of similar origin story somewhere at least. Okay, clear? Let's move forward. Alright, let's look at this, guys. Around 56 million years ago, the Atlantic Ocean had not fully opened, and animals, including our primate ancestors, could walk from Asia to North America, through Europe, and across Greenland. Okay, so Tethys, probably. Tethys wasn't formed then. Earth was warmer than it was today, but as the Paleocene epoch gave way to Eocene, it was about to get much warmer, rapidly and radically. The cause was a massive geological sudden release of carbon. During this period, the carbon injected into the atmosphere was roughly the amount that today, if we burnt everything. So whatever we have today, if we burnt all of it, it would be equal to the amount that was released then. The PETM lasted for about these many years until the excess carbon was reabsorbed. It brought drought, floods, insect plagues, and a few extinctions. Few, not all, few. Not all, not everything died off. Some animals died, some survived, in spite of the fact that there were heavy temperature and everything, all of that. Not all died. Not all went extinct. Life on Earth survived. Indeed, it prospered, but it was different. Okay? This is what he's mentioned so far. That because of whatever happened thereafter, the consequence was that we had large-scale floods, drought, plagues, and some extinctions. Now let's look at the question. Give me the answer to this, guys, very quickly. What's the inference? What's your takeaway? Very quickly, guys. Sorry. Different species having... Sorry, why has this question come? Yep, sorry, my bad. There was something in my eye actually. Yeah. Follow the assumptions. Tell me the assumptions. Global warming has a bearing on the planet's biological evolution. Separation of land masses causes the release of huge quantities of carbon into the atmosphere. Third one, increased warming of the Earth atmosphere can change the composition of its flora fauna. D, the present man-made global warming will finally lead to conditions. Again, look at this. Any future-based statement is not a part of the assumptions. Okay. Please take that as a ground rule. Any statement that tells you, oh, you know what, probably this could happen in the future, that's not a part of your assumption. Straight away you can discount out 4, which means this and this are not my answer. So now you can I've given you a hint. Now tell me the answer to this. Sorry guys, I mixed up the whole. I just saw your answers. Let me know. I have one answer that's come. Let's see. Which is good, correct? Correct, Ray. You bang on target. Good answers. Well answered. बहुत अच्छा answer है. Okay. Please understand this. Separation of land masses causing the release of huge quantities. It's not an assumption. It's mentioned in the passage that, you know what, this happened and there was large scale and finally it was reabsorbed. It's not an assumption. It's a fact. It's a statement mentioned in the passage. The rest, that yes, some survived, some died, assumption. Increased warming can change the composition of its flora and fauna. Similarly, some died, there were some extinctions, some floods, some drought. So 1 and 3. C. Bang on target. Good answers. Mallikarjun, बहुत बढ़िया. Ray, good answer. See how many questions the UPSC asked just for assumptions? Favorite question that year. And like 30 questions overall, you had around, say, almost 9 assumptions were asked, 9 to 10 assumptions. So, you have to prepare. Lecture number 4 and 5 of this series. Go back, have a look. I think a playlist should have been created. If not, it will be done. Have a look. Okay? Alright, we'll move forward, guys. Quickly, we'll move forward. Let's look at this. Internet of Things. All of you must be using in some form or the other today. Internet of Things. Have a look at it. Low-end IoT devices are cheap commodity items. Addressing security would add to the cost. This class of items is proliferating with new applications. What is proliferating? What is proliferating? Coming up, more in number. Okay? Quantitatively increasing is proliferating. Okay? When you proliferate, it means you are increasing in number. Increase in quantity or number. Mushrooming, as you say. Okay? So this class of items is proliferating with new applications. Home appliances, thermostats, security and monitoring devices and personal convenience device. They're all part of IoT. So are fitness trackers, certain medical implants, computer-like devices and automobiles. Now look at this line. The IoT is expected to expand exponentially, but, transition word, new security challenges are daunting. Daunting is essentially, they are difficult. Okay? I'll tell you, Mallikarjun. First look at this passage. Okay? He's mentioned about the examples of IoT. In the end, the last line, he said, well, the IoT is expected to expand exponentially, exponential graph, something like this. It's going to expand exponentially. But new security challenges are daunting, which means he's also saying, you know what, temper down. All the mushrooming of everything, every device related to IoT, but still there are security challenges that you need to be aware of. So the question now, inference. What is the inference? Give me the answer, guys, quickly. Let's quickly do this. Development of enabling technologies in India can be a big boost to its manufacturing sector. Firstly, where is the Indian example here in the passage? Has the author mentioned India, China, Pakistan, Namibia, Eswatini? No country is mentioned. No? So why should we assume? Why should we assume? Huh? Straight, galat? Straight, once again. India is not fully ready to adopt. Where do we know that India is not ready to adopt? Where has it said? I can't find India. Can you? I can't find India anywhere. So how can I infer this for my dear country? Definitely no. Okay. Life becomes more comfortable with the development of cheap low-end IoT devices. I'm sure it does. But what about the security challenge? The last line. Why did the author write that? He wrote it for a purpose, no? Where is the security challenge angle here? The author is not Vela that he'll just write lines like that, which means what? This is also incorrect. As we go digital, we must recognize the huge threat, the security challenges for some IoT devices. Yes, this is what I would correctly infer 100 times. Even if you woke me up right now, raat mein 2 baje bhi, I would infer this only. No India, Pakistan, Namibia, Eswatini, Brazil, none of that. If the author has not mentioned any country, you also don't mention any country. Only if the author has mentioned a particular stakeholder, will you bring in the stakeholder in the consideration. If not, no. Do not go from your side. Good answers, Ray and Swati. Mallikarjun, I told you, like assumption, no? Future-based statements are not part of assumption. Okay? And assumption, the best way to identify the author's assumption, okay, will essentially lie on 2 things. One, that the passage, the info in the passage has to be true. And 2, if this is true and if this is true, then you will have to choose the assumption that will be in sync with this. That's all you need to do. Which assumption? If and then statement, no? You study in computer science. If this is true, then that will be true. Simple. That is what assumption is. If and then statement. You have to just figure out which of them are true for the passage to be true. That is all. Assumption is only that. Okay? Next question. We'll go quickly today. Okay. Let's have a look, guys. Tell me, please. With the digital phenomenon restructuring most social sectors, it is little surprise that global trade negotiations are now eyeing the digital area in an attempt to preemptively colonize it. Big data is freely collected or mined from developing countries and converted into digital intelligence in developed countries. Digital colonization, essentially. This intelligence begins to control different sectors and extract monopoly rents. Best example, Uber, Ola. Yeah, Zomato, Swiggy. Duopoly, but if you were to consider monopoly, they are the only ones who are in play. Now ONDC has come up. Okay? Or now say Blue Smart has come up. But they are the big mafia of sorts. A large foreign company providing cab service, for instance, is not a network of cars only. It is digital intelligence about commuting, public transport, roads, traffic, city, events, personal behavioral characteristics, and so on. You must have heard, no, in the middle. So if your Uber and Ola you were using, and if your phone had lesser charge, they would charge you more money. That was one accusation against these cab companies. Why? Because they have access to every information in your phone. From your contacts to your battery level to, they follow your pattern. Okay, he books a cab every evening at 6:30. Okay, she books a cab every evening at 9 a.m. They are getting the better metadata, as you call it. Big data is essentially the metadata, which is called the data about data. So data is about myself. Okay, Bhuvan sir comes online at 7 p.m. He undergoes a final checks at 6:55. Metadata over a period of say 30 days. What was his login time every time? What was his class duration? Was his class duration higher when he was in a good mood? Was his class duration lower when he was in a bad mood? All of those inferences you can draw from metadata, the bigger data. Okay? So let's look at the question now. The most rational corollary is essentially the consequence or the proposal that you would draw considering every information in the passage is true. Okay, you will consider this, that the whole passage is true. So what's the consequence of the passage, the natural consequence of the passage? Okay, number one, globalization is not in the interests of India as it undermines the socio-economic structures. Has this passage spoken about India? Let me have a look. Once again, I don't see India anywhere. Do you? See? I don't see India anywhere. Or do I? This large foreign company. Okay. I don't see India anywhere, but fine. India should be careful to protect its digital sovereignty in global trade talks. India should charge monopoly rents. Loss of big data from India is proportional to the degree value of foreign trade. What's the corollary? Okay, guys, give me the answer to this. What will be the rational corollary, essentially? Given that the whole passage is true, what would follow naturally out of it? Good, have a look. What should we do here? What is it talking about? That you have all this information that's going in foreign hands, okay? And then they begin to control it, colonize that particular area, okay? So what should be my answer here? It's quite simple, no? Globalization is not in the interests of India as it undermines the socio-economic structures. Well, we do not know about socio-economic structures. Wrong. See, India should charge monopoly rents. No, the monopoly rents are charged by these companies, not India. The loss of big data from India is proportional to the degree of its foreign trade. No, it's not. B, India should be careful to protect its digital sovereignty in global trade talks. Don't give away too much. Okay, that would follow. Don't give away all your information to them because eventually they'll colonize it and then ask you money. That's what say like Ola, Uber and everything they do. Yeah, Amazon to a certain extent also does it. The moment you have more than 50% or 60% market share, finished. It's the whole market is yours. So be careful. India would be well advised to be careful. Don't overexpose your citizens by making sure that all their metadata, their big data is online. Okay? Let's look at the next question. 23. What is implied by the passage? Number one, big data is the key resource in the digital space. Big economies create big data. Access to big data is the prerogative of developed countries. Yes. What is being implied? What should the government look out for? What should the government protect? Big data is the key resource in digital space, absolutely being implied. Big economies create big data. It's a fact. It's not an implication. Access to big data is the prerogative of developed countries. No, it's for the plus developing also. No, wrong. Access to and possession of big data is characteristic of developed countries. Characteristic. What's the whole thing here? Obviously, prerogative is wrong. Characteristic is also wrong. A would be my answer. How many of you got A? Yeah, good, Ray. Excellent answer. Simple, no? It's just implied that protect your data. Protect your data because, as they say, data is the new oil, no? You must have heard of that quote, data is the new oil. Huh? You must have heard of this. Yeah. Figure out quotes on this, huh? Because essay, you will see, if you have seen essay paper of the previous years, they are going to come up with some very innovative essay topics, I have a feeling this time. Just like last year, when everyone was like wondering which one should I attempt. I know of many students who were all confused, which one should we attempt? Right? Okay, fine. Let's look at this now. The rural poor across the world, including India, have contributed little to anthropogenic climate change, yet they are on the front line in coping with its effects. The example that I told you about climate reparations today, no? Climate reparations. If you followed the COP27 that happened in Sharm el-Sheikh, I hope you guys must be aware. The COP27 that happened in Sharm el-Sheikh, it essentially talked about a loss and damage clause. Okay. It's a very interesting clause, guys. The loss and damages concept. Go ahead and read about it. If you haven't, it's amazing. The fact that these rich countries, you know, they are not very keen on loss and damages and climate reparations is the biggest example of hypocrisy you can ever find. Okay. That their whole economies are built on exploitation of resources that are found in, say, the global south or the developing countries. And now the global south and the developing countries are having to face the onslaught of the climate change. And yet these rich countries are all like tapping their cigars and like, okay, we'll consider this problem later. Biggest example of hypocrisy. But moving forward, that's not the central thrust. But do make sure that you go through this, especially for your civil services. If you're writing prelims, loss and damage concept padh ke jayega. So, farmers can no longer rely on historical averages for rainfall and temperature. More frequent and extreme weather events such as droughts and floods can spell disaster. And there are newer threats also, such as sea level rise and impact of melting glaciers. How is this significant in small farms? Well, you might ask. 2 billion people depend on them for their food on small farms. In India, they produce 41% of the country's food grains, and food items contribute to national security, national food security. Small farms essentially need to be protected, empowered, not just in India but across the world also. Why? Because 2 billion people are depending on small farms for their food. And given that there is going to be a lot of variance insofar as, say, rainfall, drought prediction, rainfall prediction is concerned. Today also, no, you might have seen. So the official IMD website will say, you know what, there might be rainfall of, say, 30 centimeters. Suddenly it doesn't happen, nothing happens, it's all bright. So there is problems in prediction because the margin of error there is very, very minimal. 0.1 here and there and the whole weather calculation changes. So that's what the author is saying. Logical and rational corollary. What would follow as a natural consequence from the passage? Bataiye, 24. Give me the answer, quickly. 24 and 25, give me the answer together, guys. Very quickly. Supporting small farmers is an important part of any agenda regarding environmentally sustainable development. Yes. Why? 2 billion people worldwide. In India, 41%. Poor countries have little role to play in the mitigation of global warming. What is the difference between mitigation and adaptation? I have told you. I have told you that, right? You must be knowing. C, due to large number of farmer households, India will not have food security. India will not have. We have 41% small farmers. If it goes wrong for them, we'll all be hungry only, no? This is wrong, this is wrong. Only smallholder farmers in India can ensure food security. Not really, they're just 41%. The rest 59 are large farmers or medium farmers. So they are also there, no? So wrong, which means A is the answer. Good answers. Good answers, all of you. Good answers. How about this? Tell me quickly. What does the passage imply? What is the passage implying? There is potential problem of food insecurity in India. India will have to strengthen its disaster management capabilities. What is it implying? Can we say this for sure, that there is a potential problem of food insecurity in India? Can we say that because only 41% are small farmers? Okay, which means 59% are medium or large farmers for sure. So this can't be implied. This can't be implied. If it said world, probably yes. Because again, 2 billion people. That's the number he's quoted. 2 billion people. Okay, so this is incorrect, guys. This is not what he's implying. Or is he implying? Let's see. How many of you think he's implying that? How many of you think it's implying that? No. I think Ray is correct. Ray is correct. Good. Mallikarjun, आपने सही आंसर दिया था. You had said the right thing. See what he's essentially saying here. Understand the passage now. I tried to confuse you and so many of you fell for it. The potential problem, that's the term. Potential, possibility. 41% is a possibility. Yes, this is an implication by the author. Absolutely. India will have to strengthen its disaster management capabilities. Why? Yes, because what are the things that lead to disaster? Well, averages for rainfall and temperature and frequent and extreme weather events. So if you are working on this, which means you are working on your disaster management capabilities, and that would help us. So obviously true, which means both are true. Both are being implied by the passage. Don't get confused. ठीक है. Good. Good. If you are able to, because I see most of you got, Dukhiram got it correct. Good answer. Mallikarjun also got it correct, but both changed their answers after I said the first one is incorrect. You should be absolutely, forward and telling, you know what, sir, you are trying to fool us. You are wrong. Good. Okay. All right. So that brings us to the first part of 2019. Tomorrow, we will do the second part of 2019. Also, tomorrow I want to do couple of questions from CDS and CAPF that was asked, and I believe you ought to be seeing those questions too, because many a time questions do get repeated from other examinations. So tomorrow we'll take a look at CSAT 2019, the part 2 of it, and thereafter we'll wrap this up. The whole series, may I inform you, my dear students, is going to run up till the 27th of May. I am with you up till 27th of May for answering any RC question, any concept. I am with you. Okay? Send me a mail. I have sent you my email address. I am going to write it down again. This is my email ID. Shoot me a mail if you have any question from any particular year or any question related to reading comprehension. I'll be more than happy to take it on for you. One problem, when NCERT batch start, Devendra, I do not have the information about that yet, but let me find out. Okay, I'm not sure of the information, so I will refrain from giving you an answer, but I will for sure get back to you regarding this. Okay. If you are looking for a pure English batch, I think StudyIQ is coming up with a P2I English batch, okay, which will be running for entirely in English from prelims till interview. That will be happening. Thank you for joining, Ray. And I would implore all of you join me tomorrow also. But before that, before I wrap up this class, I think a new batch is starting, say, June 19th. June 19th is the date that has been mooted. Not confirmed yet, but I will keep you informed. So make sure if you are looking to join, purely in English, okay? No regional languages, no Hindi, no Mathili, nothing. Purely in English for the non-Hindi speakers or anyone from the Hindi speaking belt who wants to learn in English. You're most welcome. We will keep you informed. Till I see you again, all of you guys, before you go, please make sure you like the whole session and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you guys all tomorrow evening 7 p.m. Thank you for joining, Swati. Thank you all of you guys for joining. Till I see you tomorrow evening 7 p.m. with the second part of CSAT 2019. This is Bhuvana Purvachar signing off for Study IQ. Namaskar and good night.